Hello, loves. Kerie Hamilton here. I am coming with you today for a story. So, hey, it's story time. I will let you know that I will be playing this on all of my social media platforms. So, it will be on even my YouTube channel, it will be on my Spotify podcasting channel, TikTok, Instagram, and so forth. So, I will suggest that you watch this either in the increments that they will be posted, or if you want to see the full entire story or listen to the full entire story, to check out my YouTube channel or podcast, which is Hamilton's Halogen. I will place the link in the bio, but I just wanted to emphasize, because if you are listening and somehow the story ends and gets cut off or something, then you know that obviously it's the platform that it's on and that it isn't allowing the entire discussion to be posted. Additionally, I wanted to make sure that I had advised that this could be triggering. Those who have gone through or have experienced trauma in their life from abuse, sexual abuse, domestic violence, divorce, child abuse, I could go on and on and on. But basically, this will be triggering to any of those. So I just ask that you take care of yourself, take care of your health. And if at any time that this story is triggering to you, or, getting you in a place that is uncomfortable, please, by all means, I wish you nothing but love and peace, and to refrain from listening. With that being said, I want to emphasize that this is my story, my beliefs, my experience. This isn't to degrade anyone. This isn't to speak negatively. This isn't to talk down or disbelief someone else's beliefs. I ask that you honor me and my story, as well as I honor you and your beliefs and your outlook of my story. At the end of the day, the reason that I am telling this to all of you is in hopes that it falls into the hands that need to experience for themselves the reality of situations if they are in the shoes that I once wore. I hope that it falls into the minds of those who are doubting themselves, doubting the love, doubting the amazing soul that they are. And I hope that this brings them peace, love, hope, faith, just connection all around, to see that you are someone, you are some of the one, and you are worth everything in this entire world. We are not human beings searching for souls. We are souls having a human being experience. You're not a human doing, you're a human being. And for that being said, I want you to understand that it isn't what you're doing or what is, going on around you. It's an experience. It's an experience of a soul living inside of a body. And my whole reason for me giving this story and my life is not because it's something to be proud of. It's not for pity. It's not for attention. It's not for, like I said, degrading or any of that. I come with wholehearted peace, love, happiness, abundance, and overall assurance and faith that you are so incredibly loved. And I hope that you find that love within yourself to give you the strength to keep moving forward, to do what you need to do in whatever situation that you are in. And I hope that my story resonates with you in some sort of way that gives you that light. We live in a world that is so used to toxicity and trauma. We are all desensitized to wrongdoings and hurtful evilness of people. And I know, coming from a business owner myself, the biggest part of marketing is word of mouth. This is why so many companies want you to leave reviews, and they push, some even reward if you leave them a review, because it is the word of the mouths of the people that experience their products or services that make others want their products and services versus someone trying to sell you their product and services. That's the same thing with people's story. Please, by all means, if I ask anything of you throughout this entire story that I'm about to tell of mine, I ask that you start getting to the point that you utilize your voice, and your experience, your story is someone else's survival. It is the evildoers and the abusers that want us to be silenced. That's what keeps them alive, all while the good people are out here doing such wonderful things and loving. And they're the ones suffering because they're being silenced by their abusers. Consistency is what breaks habits. And we need to become more consistent in listening to those who are giving stories of the abused. We need to stop questioning the abused and start asking questions of the accused. Having the accused be the ones that give their definitions of their wrongdoings and why they have done what they did. Not literally having the victim run circles around situations just to show that their innocence and their survival is worth being said. So many live in violence because of the fact that not only are they in fear, but they're in survival mode from past doings and past experiences. And this is what we need to stop. We need to stop making it okay and making it a regular thing for people to experience the ignorance and evilness and disrespect throughout this world. We need to start loving one another again and loving thy neighbors as if they are thyself, and start doing what we are supposed to be doing as human beings and being one of the experience in this world. So many are living that story in silence because, again, the abusers only survive and the abusers only strive when they silence their victims and their prey. So I hope that at the end of this story, you find peace, hope, answers, love, and most of all, awareness to what goes on in this world, the evildoers, and stop aiding into the silence of the violence and start opening your hearts and opening your minds to the stories, the survivors, the people that are sharing such sensitive information with you, in hope that you stop aiding into the evildoers. And now that I gave my whole spiel, let's begin. So many have asked, what is the spiritual awakening? How do I know if I have a spiritual awakening? What was your spiritual awakening? And that's the main purpose that I want to share my story, because I remember when I was having a spiritual awakening, I thought I was losing my dang gone mind. I remember the craziest things happening to me, and after it happened quite a few times, I started recording it. I started taking pictures. I started taking screenshots, and I literally reached out to two of my sisters, and I said to them, I don't know what's going on, but I am in my sane mind. I am wholeheartedly here right now, knowing exactly what I'm telling you guys. And I want to show you these crazy things that have been happening to me. And the whole reason I'm giving you this information is because if I am losing my mind, please save my children. And that's the honest to God truth. I was very in fear because so many things that were just so, there's no explanation for it. Let's just put it that way. And I'm going to share those things with you to show you. But these things were happening to me, and I was like, oh my God, save my kids if I'm losing my mind, right? So I'll start from the beginning, and I won't go too much into detail from my childhood and so forth, but it is imperative that I tell you about that, because that is kind of the base of the stories and where and how I got to where my situation occurred as an adult. So I will go into the basics of my childhood, and I'll tell you how it is in relation to my adulthood. So, as a child, my parents married very young. They literally were 18 years old. From my understanding, I think even my grandparents had to like sign for my mom to get married. And that's because they come from the era where you don't have sex before marriage, and they really wanted to have sex. And so, therefore, that's why they really wanted to get married. Obviously, for all the wrong reasons, right? Well, obviously, being in the marriage world and being 18, life starts lifing, and you realize that marriage isn't all that it used to be, and the sex part is not the entire marriage, right? Well, my father became an adulterer. He had many mistresses, and with that being said, he ended up leaving my mom, getting two other women pregnant. One we did not know of until just like 2 years ago. But my mom was pregnant with myself. I have an older sister, and then I have sisters that are from my dad's mistresses slash wives, ex-wives, and current wife. My mom actually was going to abort me. She felt that she, had this marriage. It was a failed marriage. I was pretty much an accident. She was still sleeping with him, knowing that he was having these affairs, wanted to make it work. And then magically I came, about. But she said that she just didn't have the heart to do it. She couldn't abort me. She had me. And now my mom was a struggling single mom. Dad out of the picture. And so she married this man. And I think, honestly, in my own opinion, I think it's because she was craving that family life that she thought she was going to have, and she needed help. And this man was financially stable. So she ended up marrying him. Well, this man was everything but a knight in shining armor. He was very abusive, an alcoholic, a drug addict, a schizophrenic, undiagnosed. And I found out all this information as 30 years later, just as I went through therapy from my adult trauma. Crazy how God works. And he came around asking for forgiveness. And I'll tell you all that story later on. But as a child, so then I was, a victim of child abuse. The abuse that was taking place was always done behind my mom's back. It was when she would go to work herself. She worked part-time, and he would do things. For instance, I'll tell you a couple short stories, so then that way it gives you a little persona of what had taken place. My dad was out of the picture, but he would always the stepfather would always throw in my mom's face how we're not his kids, we're not his responsibility. And so eventually it got to the point where my mom said, you know what, you're right. Let's take their dad to court and make him see his kids, make him be responsible for them. So during the court fiasco, let's just say, there were times that my dad was, obviously his lawyer probably said, hey, you have to start seeing them on a regular basis, like showing that you're a good dad. If you're an absent father and you show this, they're obviously going to win this case. So my dad would see us for a couple weeks at a time, then he wouldn't see us, then he would see us. And then he was also paying like a certain dollar amount until the court stuff was over. But he then began saying he wasn't working and that he didn't have the money. And so the stepdad would get mad and he'd be like, well, no money, no kids. So he would take us away from seeing my dad. And there was a point in time where for 2 years, we didn't see our father. And it got to the point where my grandmother, so my dad's mother, had said, this is absurd. This is ridiculous. Let's go together. I have these Christmas gifts. I haven't seen my grandchildren. So they both showed up to the house. And so my grandmother had said to the stepfather, I want to make this right. Like, what money does he owe? I'm going to pay you. Let's get up to par here. He needs to see these kids. I want to see my grandkids. Here's 2 years of Christmas presents. And so he had let my dad and my grandmother in the home, and we opened up these Christmas presents, and we were so, obviously we were so ecstatic of the Christmas gifts because, of course, also we're getting abused behind closed doors. And so, of course, gifts and things like that, they were usually used as our as a tool for the abuse. And so when we got gifts out of nowhere, it was even more special for us. And so during this year, I really wanted this purple popple doll, and my grandmother had actually got it for me. So I was even more like elated, like, oh my God, this is great. And so Dad and Grandma squared up with the stepfather. They left, and then my grandmother was like, we'll see you in 2 weeks, because it was like a every 2 week thing that we would see my dad, per the courts at that time. And so Grandma left, Dad left, and the stepfather said, I didn't see you guys opened all those gifts so fast. Let's go outside and like line them up and let's look at them. And it was like springtime. So there wasn't Christmas time. It wasn't during, the winter or anything. So we go out and we line up the gifts, and we're showing literally like a showcase because we were so excited. Like, look at this. Oh my God, we got this. Holy cow. And he walked back there was an attached garage at the house that we lived at the time. And he walked back into the garage and he grabbed the gasoline for the lawnmower. And he walked outside and he poured them all over the Christmas presents and blew them up, burned them right in front of our faces. So he would do things like that were just so insane. And what basically got us away from the abuser is one specific time, my sister and I were playing tetherball, and my sister hit the tetherball so hard that it came off the string and it went into the neighbor's yard. So I hurried up and I hopped the fence, and as I turned around, the monster was standing there. And so he said, did I say you could go next door? And I knew right there that it was a reason for him to abuse me. And I knew that what was coming. And I said, no, I'm sorry. And we always had to call him Daddy. And so, of course, if I didn't say that, I would be abused as well. And I said, no, I'm sorry. And I didn't think about it. Obviously, I was in the moment and playing with my sister. And so my sister was standing there with the bat, of course, in shock. And so my sister, he grabbed the bat from my sister's hands and hit me so incredibly hard across my back. I had the biggest bruise throughout my, across my back. And so, a week and a half later, we had to go to my father's house. And again, my dad was trying to show Mr. Nice Guy, show Mr. Good Dad for the courts and so forth. And so at this specific time, we were playing in the sandbox with my other sisters. As I said, my dad then had children with these other women. And he wanted us to all get in the bath, different times. We're all girls. And I said no, because I knew that I had that thing on my back. And he said, no, you've been playing in the sandbox all day. You have sand in your hair, sand all over yourself. You're getting in the bathtub. And of course, my father is stronger than me as a 7-year-old kid. And so he got my shirt off, and I remember him picking up like a shampoo bottle or something, and maybe a body wash bottle, I'm not sure, but just whipping it at the wall and saying some vulgar words. And the next thing you know, there was police and detectives and so forth. And then we were out of that situation. But although we were taken out of the trauma wasn't taken out of us. And we never went to therapy. We never, it was pretty much, we struggled. Mom now was trying to support us again on her own. We lived on free lunches, reduced lunches, wore each other's clothes, dirty clothes. Goodwill was our savior. We just, we struggled, but we made it work somehow. The good Lord always provides. And he provided to the fact that my mom eventually met my stepfather, who is still my stepfather today. The greatest saint, the best father I've ever had in my life. And he saved us. He brought us into his home and treated us like we were his own kids. And he has 2 kids of his own. He's a godsend. Well, now that we had this stepfather, the only thing is that he came into our lives into our teenage years. So, of course, we're already in our growth. From birth till age 8 is when children are absorbing and adapting and learning their patterns of life and their beliefs and so forth. So of course we were past that by the time our stepfather had come into our life. And I only lived with my stepfather for 5 years of my life. And then as soon as I turned 18, I moved out of my house. I wanted to get out. I wanted to be on my own. I think it was because I was raised in survival mode. So therefore at the age of 14, I begged my mom to get me a worker's permit, and I started working, and I have been working since age 14. So I never had anything for myself. I never was, given good things. I never had the cool stuff in school. I never had name brand or anything like that. So I really wanted to work so that I could buy myself those name brand things and get the things that I never had, the things I would dream of as a child in school that barely could eat. And so because I never had the trauma therapy or any of that was healed, it was basically like out of sight, out of mind, and we just kept moving on with life. I lived life in that survival mode. I never was shown what love is. I was only shown what love is not. So love for me was chaos, catastrophe, trauma, fear, sacrificial, conditional, that was the love that I knew because that was how I was raised. So I always seeked, as I became older and started dating, I seeked those types of men. I seeked those that needed help. I seeked those that suffered. I seeked those that were actually abusive, and not necessarily, abuse isn't always with your hands. Abuse is with words. Abuse is mental, emotional, financial. And so although I never had any of the physical abuse until my adult trauma, I still had, jerk boyfriends that would say mean things to me and treat me poorly and cheat and, just all of that. But because I came from that horrific mindset in knowing what love was not, but thinking that's what love was, I knew that I never wanted someone to suffer the way that I did. So I was a people pleaser. I was over loving. I wanted to save everybody. I wanted to, be the answer and the love that I knew that how it felt to not have. So I overly extended my own self to be, to please others. I wanted to save everybody. If I had millions and trillions of dollars, I wanted to be that person that, could just take away everybody's pains and sorrows and have everybody live such a beautiful, loving life. And little did I know, the only person that needed that saving was actually myself. So here I was in high school and in part of college and so forth that I dated all the jocks. I was in sports. I was very outgoing. One thing I will say is that, with the abuser silencing myself and my sister, we both were very rambunctious and out loud individuals going into our teenage world because we now had that freedom to use our voice. So we were always outspoken, and I was always one to, if someone treated someone poorly in school or did bullying or anything like that, I was the one that spoke up. You don't treat someone like that. You're not going. I had so many friends, but I think the reason that I had so many friends and so many people knew me is because of my voice, because I was outspoken, and because I made myself known in a room so that I wanted to make others comfortable, even if it was at the cost of making myself look uncomfortable. But it's actually kind of funny because now on the healed side of me, I realize the loudest people in a room are actually probably the ones that are suffering the most. And I didn't know that at the time. And obviously being a teenager, you don't realize that stuff. But because of that, like I said, I dated the jerks and so forth. And then into my adulthood, in my early 20s, I ended up dating and eventually married my ex-husband. And he was total opposite of anyone I had ever been with. He didn't play any sports. He came from, just a sister and himself, very small family. I have a huge family because both my parents have been married and divorced 3 times. Lots of sisters, like I said, outgoing, loud. And we, I knew, like, obviously he was a great guy, very loving, very caring. And my friends were like, that's who you need to be with. You go for all these jerks. Like, you need to be with a good guy. And so I felt like I almost forced myself to marry him because he was a good person, knowing that, like, you're supposed to marry good people. But there was never that, like, love connection with us. Like, he was literally just a really good friend. And even still to this day, we have the greatest friendship, with having our children and everything. But the, like, love connection just wasn't there. And I know now, on the healed side of me, the reason the love connection wasn't there is because I was in the human conditioning that love was to be toxic. Love was to be chaotic, commotion. I was supposed to see people fighting and arguing. And because he didn't do any of that with me, I felt that he didn't love me. As crazy as that sounds, because I also know that obviously being hit and abused and so forth isn't right either. But we are all humans of consistency, habits, conditioning. And so when you are raised that way, that is what you interpret love to be. And so I divorced my ex-husband after 10 years of marriage because I didn't feel loved, and I wanted him to go be loved the way that he deserved, and I wanted to be loved the way that I thought I deserved, And that led me then to my recent 4 years ago adult trauma that led me into the spiritual awakening. So after I was divorced for about 2 years, I began online dating. And now online dating was very new at this time. It came out when I was married, and obviously I wasn't online dating when I was married. So therefore, it was newer to me. But unfortunately, I fell victim to a abusive, narcissistic individual. And I know that word is used so often, the narcissistic word, so I don't even like putting that into my story or into words, but someone that has been truly with a true narcissist knows that it is a mental disease. It's a disorder. And online dating is where many of them find their prey, because everyone is on there looking for love, and how they reel in their prey is by love bombing. And what did I want most out of my marriage is to feel loved. So I fell right into that rabbit hole, like 900 million feet deep into the hole of chaos. I only was with this person for 11 months, and he turned my entire world upside down. Put trackers on my car, followed me for 8 months, cost me $30,000 in legal fees to protect myself. I joined professional boxing because I was afraid that this person was going to literally jump out of a bush and get me and kill me. And I almost lost my life. I literally almost lost my life. Had him arrested for domestic battery twice. And when I finally tried to get away, that's actually when the abusers are the most, they need to live on control. They need to be the ones in control. So when they feel that they're getting out of control, that's where they become the most manic. And that is where most people end up losing their lives. And the reality is, when you are in domestic violence, there really is only 3 ways out. Either someone, the victim, becomes so tired and they end up taking their life. The abuser ends up taking their victim's life. Or the person finally gets the help they need. They finally get the strength they need, and they become a survivor. And there's a reason that someone is called a survivor from domestic violence, because not everyone survives. And that's the truth. Now, why do I share all this with you? As I was trying to make a long story short, is, again, going back to the spiritual awakening. right now, I feel like it's so normal for so many people to say, wake up, wake up. And they scream this, but it's like, well, what are you saying? What do you mean, wake up? It's because we are in a society that we are constantly trained and conditioned to look outside of ourselves for answers to what we have within us. What the spiritual awakening is literally a blessing in disguise. You will go to the darkest, deepest, ugliest part of life. You will literally be at rock bottom and everything will be stripped away from you. Not because of the fact that you did anything wrong. When things are stripped from you, it's because it's all outside noise, it's all chaos, and everything is pulled from you to the fact that you only have yourself left to look within. Please understand me when I tell you, if you feel that you are at rock bottom and you are at the darkest, deepest part of life, I tell you with all truth, you are in the best place of your life. You don't realize it yet. You think, yeah, okay, I'm struggling. I can barely even eat. I don't know where I'm going. I'm homeless or whatever the case may be. But I beg you to listen to my words right now. Being at rock bottom is the best place to be, because now you have only yourself. And in the silence is when the Savior comes to save. And this is where I know and have come from the land of religion that I used to once live and believe. And now I'm in the world of the spiritual life. And I could say this because of the life that I lived and the experience I lived and the things that I saw. And like I said in the beginning of this video, that I will share videos and pictures and everything with you to show you my evidence of why I feel and know and believe this. So many talk about this rapture and that something is going to come down, that this Jesus Christ is going to come down in his robe and stuff and just sweep you away. But what if that rapture is actually what comes for you? When your mother, your father, your son, your daughter, whoever passes away and that soul comes to visit you, you feel it in words, you feel it in numbers, you feel it listening to the radio and it comes in lyrics, you feel it with a presence next to you. You see things that happen that are undescribable, like lights flickering and sheets moving or a door closing or something in that nature. They don't come back as the figure of a father or the figure of the mother or the son or the daughter that you had next to you before they passed away. It is a soul, because remember, we are all here as a soul inside of a human experience. And that Jesus Christ, who saved my soul, didn't come in a brown robe. Although I will say I had a dream and I remember waking up and calling my sister and saying, I swear on anything, I opened my eyes and I saw that Jesus robe leaving my bedroom door. And I don't have a picture to show that for you guys. I don't have a video to show that, but I know that it was something that I saw, and maybe it was just a dream. I'm not sure, but I'll tell you, there was a soul that came at the darkest time of my life and saved me. And I try to say this without tears, and I may pause this video so that I can gather myself so that you can feel the saving that will come for you. But it doesn't yell, it doesn't scream, it doesn't come in chaos like you're used to. It comes in such a silence. It comes within your soul, and it comes in peace. And that's how you know the direction that you're supposed to be in. All the chaos and all the things that you go through, the things that are stripped away from you, it's not to destroy you. It's not to make you feel that you are some failure or some catastrophe or someone that is broken. No, you are becoming what you are supposed to be, and that is the saving. And that is why I really don't believe in the rapture and the religion end of it anymore, because I don't feel that soul that came, that savior that came to save me, is going to come twice, and once down from the heavens. And especially if we were given the gift of free will for us to do what we freely need and can and want to do in this being, this human being life, there's no way that someone's going to come down and just grab us away from our free will. What if we don't want to go? What if we don't want to go up into these clouds? Because to me, it doesn't exist. What it is it's the saving of your soul coming within you. And here, when you think of that person, it's like you think of that mother, that father, that daughter, that whoever that you lost, and you think of them in their human being soul, their human being life, the female, the male version that they were. But what if that isn't the person that comes? It's not in a person form, it's in a soul form, and it's in a universe form, and it's in a soul touching way, just like the loved ones that surround you every single day that you feel. Because that's who came to save me. And I know, and I will show you these videos. It was the craziest thing. It was a week before my court date that I had to face my abuser that I saw every single month. And I had to be reminded of how he literally almost took my life. And here I had to face him in court. And a week before, I drove past where I would have turned right to go to the courthouse. And the gas station that was on the corner had gas at 777. And anyone that knows in the spiritual world, it's like the sign of God being with you. There was things like lyrics coming on. I would be crying on my way to work and saying how I just feel worthless and I just don't want to live anymore, because I was living to survive and I wasn't living to live. And it was 8:11 when the song Wonderful from Tones and I came on my radio, and 8:11 is the time that I was born. And if you listen to the words of Wonderful from Tones and I, it basically says that you are wonderful, just look up at the sky. And it's little things like that and assurances that kept me going. It wasn't someone in a brown robe that showed up, but it was someone that spoke in my soul. It was someone that grabbed me inside my soul to let me know that I was going to be okay. It was someone that showed me in peace and brought me to the peace that I am at today. And it was all of the things that I could say were chaotic and catastrophe of life, and seeing the devil himself in different people, like the stepfather and the person that I loved so much, as his eyes turned black as he abused me. I could sit here and be the victim and live my life feeling sorry for myself, or I can be in silence and have everything stripped away from me, knowing that the silence was when I was saved, because I was living my life in the ego form of the world, thinking that my worth and my value were in the things that I had and did, because I didn't have anything as a child. I only knew love as a sacrifice, and here I was sacrificing my own self to get things, to value myself and the things and the successes that I had, when really I wasn't in the right mindset, and I didn't have to sacrifice anything, because love is not of conditions, it's unconditional, and it comes from within. And we sit here and we press our beliefs and our fear and our hatred to others outside of us, and blame everything outside of us, and fall victim and sit in that egotistical false reality of our life. But really, you are the best gift, but it is your free will that has to save you and listen. It has to be in the silence when you are alone from everything, and not listening and entertaining to the outside noise of people and things and beliefs and false realities. That is where the manipulation takes place. When you are at rock bottom and you have nothing left, that is when you will finally listen. When you don't, you will just keep aiding into the chaos that you've been aiding in your entire life. And that's what the spiritual awakening is. The spiritual awakening is waking you up to the manipulation, the belief systems, the structures, the human conditioning that you were told, whether it was from your parents because that was what they were told and they were supposed to believe, or whether it was from religion, or whether it was from a childhood structure or school structure or curriculum, or something that made an organized system in your mind to believe that that was the way that life was supposed to be. We are, like I said, we are not a human doing. We are a human being. We are supposed to be in the environment to feel it and to be in a peaceful experience. We are not supposed to feel overwhelmed in a structure and a curriculum and a way of manipulation and abuse to form into certain ways of someone's structure or belief. And the spiritual awakening is what awakens you. You see that all of these things on television and the radio and the stories that people do, that it's only ways to manipulate, it's only ways to cause chaos and to keep your mind manipulated, because when you are in that commotion, you cannot think with a logical mindset. You cannot think clearly because you're constantly in that state of fear or commotion or manipulation. And it's when you are in the silence and in the peace that you actually are able to gather your thoughts and you start awakening to the reality of what is going on around you and what is going in within you. You start to awaken to the structures and the things that aren't true. And you start seeing things. You're given the gift of discernment, and you see things and you feel things because now you know what that feeling feels like inside of you, because you had that soul touching experience that woke you up. It shook you out of reality. The person that was seeing externally everything, the person that was looking for more, getting more, putting their values in what they could provide versus who they truly are in soul. And now that you are awakened to that, you see things for what they are, which are false realities, illusions, and manipulations to do things and to be what I call a sheeple, just a sheep following a herd. And you start seeing it for the truth. You start seeing the reality. You start seeing what is the purpose and the plan for you, not the pressure and the false reality that you've been living in. And when we have things that are external, or we have, some of us, we lose even friends and family. I did myself, because I realized that they actually either are in with the confusion and the chaos and they won't awaken themselves, so they just will never, they will constantly be that sheeple that just follows the herd, and that's their decision, that's their free will to be that person. But when you awaken to the reality, it's so hard to lay yourself down again for more manipulation and abuse. It's like laying on the train tracks wondering if the train is going to run you over again, or even wondering why you just don't get up from letting the train run you over a million times. You just can't be that person anymore. You can't live in that reality anymore, because you are awakened to the reality of the truth of the things that are done out of manipulation and control, and you get out of that control. You don't live in that lifestyle anymore. This is why so many people that come from even narcissistic abuse, they become awakened, because the same type of abuse is what's going on in this outside world. And that's what the awakening is. It's waking up to seeing everything external, the drugs you use, the alcohol you use, the lies you believe, the false narratives that people put in place for you based on their own beliefs and things aren't real. It's not real. And that's what the awakening is. So if you're someone that is out here today struggling, wondering where you're supposed to be, feeling lost, feeling hopeless, feeling just in the dark, feeling that you are in chaos and commotion and seeking peace, I beg you, please do not give up. You have to keep going, because it is through the valley of the shadow of death that you find that everlasting love. The light never fades. It always comes through. You just need to open just a crack and let the light in. I wrote a book. It's called Sorry, Satan, the Souls for the Savior. And no, this is not a solicitation or something, or me telling you to go get my book. The reason I bring my book up is because the last chapter, it states the legacy of love. And I want to share that with you because I think it's so crucial to find that love within yourself, the love within others, and to lead by love, because it's your enlightenment, it's your frequency, it's your energy, it's who you are, that you feed your soul, that is going to lift you higher than the darkness that you are in. The legacy of love. Love, it's a word that should heal, protect, and uplift. But I've seen how it can be twisted into something dark and destructive. I've seen it take lives. I've seen it leave holes in hearts and families and homes. I know what it's like to live with that darkness from the inside out. My childhood was not safe. I lived with abuse, manipulation, and fear. I carried shame, guilt, and silence for years, believing that love couldn't hurt this much. I learned what love is not and not what love is. But through it all, I discovered that it is up to me, myself, and yourself, for you, to seek within, to make changes that break the generational curses and cycles that are what let you be free from the chains that hold us down. We must stop bargaining with sin. We must stop bowing to the devil we know and surrender to the God we clearly don't or don't know as well as we think. We must stop seeing love as conditional when it's unconditional. We must stop thinking that we cannot be loved unless we sacrifice something of ourselves to receive it. We must start seeking the Christ who has filled us with love, and that love is within us. We must stop fighting against ourselves and others and begin fighting for ourselves and others. That is what love is. Love is a gift. A gift is something you receive from others. We must love thy neighbor as thyself, like in Leviticus 19:18. But how can you love thy neighbor as thyself if love is a feeling you have never had or you have associated with pain? This is probably why you question yourself, why you cannot be loved or find love. How can you when you're dispersing it to others in the form you've been accepting it about yourself painfully? Why can you love others with such compassion and yet be so hard on yourself? It is because you were never loved compassionately to know how to accept it and to allow it from others. Or maybe you've been placed in fear or maybe you've placed fear in the place of accepting love due to the destruction it has always caused you. What if I told you that doing so, you have built a closed circuit of energy for you, allowing your life restriction to become abundant of love, because all the positive energy is a conductor from the source of love. What goes in must come out, so you must accept love to give love, because you cannot give something you don't have. We must not become the monsters we once fought or maybe are currently fighting. Fill your heart with love and light instead of madness. Never allow anyone's ignorance to become a reflection of your character, because as I said, love is a gift. Not everyone or every gift we receive is something that is for us. Sometimes it's like unwrapping a box only to find a lumpy, scratchy sweater in the shade of mustard yellow that no one has worn since 1970. It reeks of faint mothballs, hangs 2 sizes too big, and feels nothing like what you would choose for yourself. Yet even then, that sweater still has purpose. It can still keep someone warm, even if that someone isn't you. And it's the truth about life. Not everyone or everything is meant for you. Some things will fit and some won't. Some people will stay and some won't. That is why we must walk through both the highs and lows to discover what belongs in our story and what's only meant to pass through. Love is all internal. Love begins with you, your inner self, from your heart. Seeking your love externally isn't love, it's desire, a temporary feeling. Love is a permanent feeling. The mind always seeks to wander, and if you seek love externally, you will always seek for more, because that is the mind determining love, not the heart, not the soul. Suffering isn't because you're not desired or loved, or that you can't be or never will be. It is the inability to fulfill the desire and the need to want more because you are searching for love with your mind and not your heart and soul. Through forgiveness, I learned freedom. I forgave not to excuse the harm done for me, but to release myself from carrying that weight forever. To allow myself to be loved so I can give love. Healing became my rebellion against pain, and each step forward, self-love and understanding became a brick in the foundation that I've built my best self. The journey isn't to define who you are, it is to discover who you can be. Don't be a thug like I was, a traumatized human with unhealed grief. Instead, be a light, living, loving in God's holy truth. The strongest version of you emerges not because of what happened to you, but because you chose to rise, speak, and reclaim your power despite. And maybe your darkest is due to grief. Grief exists only because love exists. Grief is love, just in another form. I will not allow the deaths of my aunt or my cousin Amanda or countless others to be in vain. I had lost my aunt I'm sorry, not cousin. Amanda was a friend from high school. And I lost my Aunt Dawn and my friend Amanda to domestic violence. Both of them were taken by their husbands. Their husbands took a weapon to their head and then turned it on themselves. I must keep their soul alive through my voice and allow their stories to live on. Through my words, I can reach those trapped in cycles of abuse, those who feel powerless, those who believe and that are leaving or speaking out is impossible. Their legacy is not just a memory, it is a mission of walking in the light they left behind. You must not allow your grief to be the shadows in your story either. Instead, you must keep your soul lit. It is in the light and the stillness that our eternal souls can connect with us internally. Keep your loved ones alive by remembering them with honor. Create a special day that belongs to them. Visit places that once held their joy. Pick up a hobby they loved or adopt an animal that mirrors their spirit. In doing so, you'll find that they never truly left. The body fades, but the soul lives on forever. And it's in the silence that soul visits us. We are all organisms. We are either dying or living. Ask yourself, are you living your best life in your true authentic form, or are you surrendering? Because every breath is a choice. Every moment is a declaration to shrink back into the shadows or to rise unbroken into the light. To everyone reading this or listening to this in this case, and you are in the dark, trust me when I tell you that seeking help isn't weakness or failure. Choosing life, choosing love that's real is the bravest act that you can take. And as I stated before, this isn't for pity or for power. I send this for power because the power is to inspire, encourage, to ignite change, and to remind the broken that they are never alone. The holes we fall into may be deep and dark, but the Lord said himself, feed my sheep. So do not lose faith. There's always reason for hope. Just build up your ladder and he'll throw you down his rope. Where you are right now is not to define you, it's to discover you. Don't focus on the downfall, focus on the lesson behind it. Sit in that silence and gather your thoughts. Seek the feeling within it and seek what is being relayed to you on your journey. The more you do this, the more truth begins to unravel and your pieces begin to align to create the masterpiece, you. You are a piece of the master. Seek purpose through the pain. Prepare your mind to only seek the blessings throughout the burdens, because the beauty awaits from the shadows outran to those who have faith and to trust God's plan. Your authenticity awaits your embrace and your true destination. Life is not a rough draft. Do not waste time. Live it in your best way because you are worth it. In a world full of melody, everyone craves a bass line. Peace, love, and light to each and every one of you. Remember that you are amazing and you are so incredibly wonderful. Sit in the silence and embrace it. Embrace it however you can, because the silence is where things speak the loudest, and it is within you.